Welcome to Fantasy Baseball Today. It is June 5th, and I am not Frank Stamfel. I am Chris Towers here with Scott White. We're ready to recap everything you need to know from Wednesday's action. We're recapping Wednesday's action. I've got some questions for you, Scott. It's been a while since we've spoken, like a week minus the 20 seconds I was on yesterday's podcast for my little cameo appearance. And so I've got some questions for you. We're going to recap everything you need to know from Wednesday. We've got an injury update for Pablo Lopez. But first, oh my goodness gracious, player of the day for Wednesday. Scott, who do you want to go with?
We didn't talk about this beforehand.
We didn't.
So
Do you want me to go first? Because I have a question for you as part of it.
Oh, that's great. Go for it.
All right. I'm going to go with Mackenzie Gore, who had another exceptional outing, and he actually got a win against the Chicago Cubs. It was his first win in like a month and a half. The Nationals have scored 0 runs effectively for him. 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. We've got a segment coming up later on today. Just wondering. That's what we're calling the segment. It's a little folksy aside. And just wondering.
Yeah.
Is Mackenzie Gore just an ace now? He has a 2.87 ERA for the season, a 2.58 FIP. That's really good for a FIP. Leads baseball with 108 strikeouts. That is 7 more than Garrett Crochet in second place. That's a lot of strikeouts on June 5th. That is like, I don't want to overstate it, but that's pretty close to a 300 strikeout pace there. Is Mackenzie Gore just an ace here?
Oof. I mean, I'm leaning yes. I don't want to totally commit to it. I haven't moved him up that high in my rankings. I hadn't noticed he led the majors in strikeouts. That's even more impressive than the stat I was going to offer, which is that he has the second best swinging strike rate among qualifiers behind just Tarek Skubal. You know how much I like that statistic. The home run rate's kind of high. The batting average against is kind of high. The walk rate is it's not high anymore, but it's a little less than ace-like. So I would say whip concerns exist here for Gore still in a way that's unbecoming of an ace, maybe. And then of course he has to prove he can take on ace workload, which he hasn't yet. He got to 166 and a third innings, so it's not like they're going to shut him down or anything. It's just,
and he made 32 starts last year. He just wasn't efficient.
Yeah, when the innings begin to pile up, does he start to lose something? I mean, he's close enough. Like, he's must start. We can go that far with Gore at least, and it's upsetting to me because he was a big part of a dynasty trade in the Scott White Dynasty League last year. I had him for about as cheap as you could keep Mackenzie Gore, and I included him in a trade to get George Kirby, thinking I was upgrading at starting pitcher.
Yeah.
I'm not even from a dynasty perspective, I'm not sure that's an upgrade anymore.
Yeah, in my most recent rankings update before this was last week, I had him 26th at starting pitcher. The 5 names ahead of him: Robbie Ray, Spencer Strider. Well, I don't know about that one. Jesus Luzardo, Brian Wu, and George Kirby. Pablo Lopez was also ahead of him. He's clearly behind. We'll talk about that shortly. So Mackenzie Gore at least 25th. Mackenzie Gore, Spencer Strider the rest of the way.
I am inclined to say, as of today, Mackenzie Gore. I want to move Gore up a lot here, I think.
Mackenzie Gore or Jesus Luzardo. Kind of very similar pitchers.
Yeah, Gore. I've had them kind of right next to each other all season, but Gore ahead. And now I think a gap has opened up between them after Luzardo kind of blew up all his ratios last start.
Yep. What about Robbie Ray or Mackenzie Gore?
So that's the range I want to move Gore to. I think I'll have him behind Ray, but maybe right next to each other. So I'm looking at a group of 4 pitchers: Carlos Rodon, Chris Bubich, Robbie Ray, and Mackenzie Gore. I think Gore belongs right there in that foursome. And those are the almost aces, I guess. They're all kind of breakouts this year. Obviously, we've seen this from Rodon and Ray before, but not in a couple years.
Different versions of both, too. One more question in that range. What about Christopher Sanchez? Control's gotten a little wonky since that forearm injury. Is he behind those guys now?
Yes. Now, I've had Sanchez ahead of Gore all season, and I'm looking at it now. I have Gore 2 spots behind Sanchez, and that's where I'm like, that doesn't need to be that way anymore.
Yeah, I think the key thing for Gore is he has just become dominant against lefties, which had always been a problem for him, but he has that new harder slider, and all of a sudden he's got like a 40% strikeout rate against lefties so far this season, a 108 whip. Teams have been even less willing to put lefties in the lineup against Mackenzie Gore, and it's really helped him take a big step forward. So yeah, there's a lot to like about what he's doing right now.
He has one pitch with worse than a 45% whiff rate.
His four-seamer?
His four-seamer, which nobody has a 45% whiff rate.
And even a 23% whiff rate on a four-seamer is not bad.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's average or above probably. So that's pretty good. Did that give you enough time to find an, oh my goodness gracious, performance?
No, because I was answering your question.
I'm sorry.
Let's go with,
there weren't a lot of good options tonight in terms of performances.
I think Merrill Kelly probably deserves.
Sure. That was another one I was going to ask you.
7 1-hit innings against the Braves. Oh man, did I write this number down right?
What I have is since that 9-run outing against the Yankees on April 3rd, he has a 2.55 ERA with 68 strikeouts and 67 innings over his past 11 starts. I don't know if that was the stat you were going to give or not.
No, it wasn't.
It was a pretty good stat.
It's a pretty good stat. So thank you for that. No, I wrote down that he had 1 whiff. He didn't. He had 14 whiffs, which is actually a good number for Merrill Kelly. A good number for anybody, but especially Merrill Kelly. He had a similar start to this, another 7-inning 1-hit outing a few turns ago, and then since then, I think there was a couple rough starts in a row. And I think he's probably overachieved this year on the whole, but does he deserve to be a regular part of a fantasy rotation? 3.43 ERA, 0.99 whip. Now, I'd stop a little short of calling him must start, but certainly he feels like he's must start right now and is going to be a regular part of your fantasy staff. Like I don't think it's going to be an on and off the waiver wire situation for Merrill Kelly this year.
Just wondering, is Merrill Kelly a sell high candidate?
Yeah. After a start like this, and it depends on what you like. I have a hard time seeing somebody eagerly buying Merrill Kelly because he's in his mid-30s and
very well-known commodity at this point.
Aesthetically not somebody anybody's going to get excited about. So I think to really pull that off, it would need to be a league with mostly casual participants and somebody's really hurting for pitching and you just like, hey, I'm going to save your season with Merrill Kelly. Give me I'm trying not to do a combo buy low, sell high situation here. So I don't know. Give me
a Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, except the person is unwilling to give up pitching because that's where they're struggling. So I was thinking I don't know, Christian Yelich or somebody like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pablo Lopez is hurt pretty seriously, unfortunately. We will talk about that after this break, but that's a person who you might be able to target in a Merrill Kelly sell high because whoever has Pablo Lopez is going to need some starting pitching. So we'll talk about that right after this break.
Two scoring sensations stations square off. Temwa Shawinga and the first-place Current battle Esther Gonzalez and Gotham FC next Saturday on CBS.
All right, we are back on Fantasy Baseball today, and Pablo Lopez will miss 8 to 12 weeks with a grade 2 teres major strain in his right shoulder. The earliest he will be cleared to throw is in 4 weeks, and the Twins said that they will try to provide an update in 4 weeks. So we probably won't hear anything until then. David Festa was scratched from his start at AAA on Wednesday and seems likely to join the Twins rotation on Thursday to replace Pablo Lopez. And we'll start there as far as the Pablo Lopez replacements, because David Festa did have a 1.39 ERA, 27% strikeout rate in 3 starts with the Twins in early April. Mm-hmm. But he gave up a lot of loud contact, didn't finish 5 innings in any of the 3 starts. Is he a must-add pitcher now that he's got some runway in the Twins rotation?
I don't know that I'd go as far as must add, but I think in most leagues, somebody's going to want to add him. We were disappointed to see him get optioned when he was, and he went to AAA. He was obviously pitching well there. The short outings are
kind of a feature of the Twins management, I think.
But I will note, now, Zebby Matthews has had back-to-back starts of at least 5 innings. One of them was 7 innings. The most recent here, Wednesday, was 5 innings. So it's not unthinkable. And Festa has enough of a swing and miss arsenal that you'll want to. Gosh, he had nearly an 18% swinging strike rate at AAA this year. It was 11% in the majors, which is pretty mid, but there's upside for more, I think. And there's enough upside here to be interested.
All right. The most added starting pitchers on CBS Fantasy right now are, I'm going to be honest, kind of underwhelming. They're not exactly the most interesting names, but we'll talk through them. Lance McCullers, 76% rostered. Do you think that needs to be higher? I didn't hear what you guys talked about yesterday.
I think it does. The 2 starts he's had back to back, they were both dominant in different ways. The most recent one was against the Pirates. It's unlikely that he's going to be this good with a 3 mile per hour drop in velocity, but when there are 2 starts as good as those back to back, I think you have to take a shot and let it play out.
If him and Festa are both available.
Yeah, I'd rather have McCullers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan Yarbrough. I don't have a lot of faith in McCullers. I get your point that like my thought on him is mostly just I expect it to fall apart pretty quickly, either through injury, unfortunately, or poor performance. But like you said, the 2 starts have been so good, and the one before the 2 starts, it wasn't a great start, but it was a lot of strikeouts, if I'm remembering correctly. He had like an 8 strikeout in 5 innings or 4.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's been impressive enough that you kind of just have to take the chance and see. But I think I have a little more faith in Festa.
Okay.
We've also got Ryan Yarbrough, who's 41% rostered. Noah Cameron, 61%. McAble, 55%. Sawyer Gibson Long, 19%. Well, I'm planning on talking more about McAble and Sawyer Gibson Long later. If you want to get into them now, we can. They both pitched. Both made their returns to the majors. Neither was terribly impressive.
Well,
but obviously Abel was very impressive in his first start.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will look at McAble's start and say, "Oh, what are you talking about? He was impressive again. He allowed 1 earned run in 5 1/3 innings, walked nobody, struck out only 2."
The 0 walks is a big deal for a guy like him.
Yeah, and he didn't have any walks in his debut. That was part of what was surprising because at AAA this year, 4.1 walks per 9, and he went down.
That's a significant improvement.
Yeah, it's still bad, but it's not as bad as before. And he went down after that first start and walked 7 in 2 starts. So to see him come back and walk nobody again, it's like, okay, well, maybe Maybe there's something to it. But here's what I noticed that is of greater concern for Mick Abel, and I think it gets to what you were saying about it not being that impressive. All of his pitches were down 2 miles per hour or more from that debut. He basically reverted to his minor league velocity. Everything was up in that debut. His control was absurdly good, like a 75% strike rate. I saw multiple tweets from people who cover Phillies minor leagues, and they said they'd never seen that version of Mick Abel before. So I think he just, I don't know if it was adrenaline fueled or what, but it was not a standard he can live up to. I feel like this start confirmed it with the velocity dropping that much across the board. And he only ended up with 5 whiffs on 78 pitches. The average exit velocity in this start, 97.4 miles per hour. So he got hit hard.
Yeah. Only 5 whiffs, 4 on the 4-seamer, only 1 on the rest of his pitches.
And just managed to avoid damage. And so so he managed to get 0 walks for a second straight start. If the control reverts too, what is there to get excited about? That's not to say Mick Abel shouldn't be rostered. He absolutely should, because prospect pedigree. I mean, the overall, even though the walks were high in the minors, the overall numbers, there's a lot to like there too. But I think it's similar to Lance McCullers, where you're picking him up, hoping for the best and expecting the worst.
I think we were hoping after that first start and then him getting recalled that he was going to give us something to get really excited about. And so I think what we're saying is not that he's bad, that there's not talent here, none of that. It's just, it wasn't as exciting as we hoped it would be based on how that first start went. I do think, Sawyer Gipson-Long, Detroit Tigers starting pitcher, it was his first start since 2023. He had Tommy John surgery and hip surgery. Since then, he's 19% rostered, and I'm not saying he's a must roster player by any means, but I think Sawyer Gipson-Long is kind of interesting. There's a little bit of Reese Olson in his game, where
I made the
fastballs are not great, but he gets a lot of whiffs with the secondaries.
Yeah. I liked him when he came up in 2023. I felt like he wasn't getting enough appreciation. I actually included him in my top 100 prospects the following year, very low on the list. And I think I didn't see him in any other top 100 lists. And I noticed the same thing. Like, I think because the fastball isn't great, evaluators just weren't giving him the time of day, but he got a ton of strikeouts in the minors and he came up and did the same in the majors. I did not like that in this return to the majors, he threw his fastball 43% of the time. Because one thing Olson has always been good about, Reese Olson, is he knows not to throw that 4-seamer too much. And I think if Gipson-Long is going to be successful, he'll need to do that as well. Wasn't this just a spot start for Sawyer Gipson-Long, or am I remembering wrong? I think Reese Olson
Jackson Job's on the IL.
Jackson Job's on the IL, but Reese
Olson's dealing with that thumb injury or that finger injury. He had an injection a couple days yesterday, maybe. So he still, I think, has just been limited to playing catch.
Okay. So
there's a little bit of runway here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll see if.
And it was 3 earned runs in 3.2 innings, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, 5 hits.
Yeah. It was not the sort of start that would make anybody rush out and add Gipson-Long, but it is worth monitoring how he does for however long he has.
Now, I've got 5 other pitchers who are 4 of them are interesting, and then a couple are not so interesting, but have been pitching well lately. So we'll throw David Festa in here, but I want you to rank the following 5 pitchers. David Festa, Zebby Matthews, who pitched somewhat well on Wednesday. Yuri Perez, who will make his return from Tommy John surgery next Monday. Edward Cabrera, who I have not been inclined to believe in because that's made me look dumb in the past, but I saw Eno Saris pointed out he's lowered his arm slot over the past 5 starts. He's traded his 4-seamer for his sinker, And he's had the best location plus of his career over those 5 starts. And then Shane Bieber, who is likely going to start a minor league rehab assignment, I think, on Friday. Or will make his first, I think his first one was in a complex league game. So he's going to Double-A, I think, on Friday, and is probably a couple of weeks removed from coming back from Tommy John surgery. So David Festa, Zebby Matthews, Yuri Perez, Edward Cabrera, Shane Bieber. They are all rostered between 31 and 75%. How do you rank those 5?
Yuri Perez, easy number 1.
I agree.
He's in my top 45 already.
I've said this multiple times, and I've written it multiple times, and I just... Is it crazy to say that Yuri Perez has best pitcher in baseball upside? Not the likeliest outcome, but upside.
It's...
Am I putting the teal colored glasses on?
I would prefer to say top 10 upside, because there's some really good pitchers at the top. So I'd want to hedge my bet a little there, but he has a ton of upside. There's no disputing that. And I think his roster rate has been too slow to climb. I guess it's up to 75% now, but it probably should have been that high 2 weeks ago. Yeah. If not sooner. And Shane Bieber, like, if you missed out on Yuri Perez at this point, Shane Bieber's your next chance, because he's very close to returning, and he could be an ace when he gets back. He looked like he was trending toward becoming that when he went down last year. So those, I think, are the clear numbers 1 and 2. None of the others I'd go as far as to call must roster. I'd probably give Zebby Matthews the edge over Festa, just because we have seen him give a little bit of length, and the Twins obviously gave him priority over Festa at the last rotation opening. They're near equals in my mind, but I give Matthews the slight edge. And then who else are we
Edward
talking
Cabrera.
about? Yeah, so what are the actual numbers during that time? I thought I had them written down here, because I did see the Eno Saris tweet as well.
Edward Cabrera he finished May with 28 strikeouts to 8 walks in 27 innings while putting up a 2.00 ERA. So 8 walks in 27 innings. That's good for anyone. For Edward Cabrera, that's like prime Clayton Kershaw command.
So I had not really paid much attention to him because he had yet to go 6 innings in a start. But that is interesting to make those kinds of changes. And if you're just looking at percentages, they look pretty good. Yeah, maybe Edward Cabrera. What do you think? Does he need to go ahead of the Twins duo there?
I don't think so, because it's I think both have team context working against them, but in the Twins case, it's just, can they convince Rocco Baldelli to let them go 90 pitches regularly? And that might just mean they have to pitch well. I don't think there's anything Edward Cabrera can do to convince the Marlins to be a good team.
Right.
So I think that's his feels more intractable than the Twins hold what they're being held back by. So
you kind of filibustered there to help me calculate that during that same stretch, the 5 starts since the beginning of May, Edward Cabrera has a 65% strike rate and a 12% swinging strike rate.
That's pretty
good.
It
used to be Baseball Reference. If you just did the first game and the last game, it would show those percentages. But for some reason, they did away with that, and they just show totals now. So I have to calculate it. Yeah, those are good percentages. They're not amazing percentages, but they're definitely improvement for Edward Cabrera.
Amazing for Edward Cabrera.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then Bailey Falter and Charlie Morton have both had good ERAs for like a month. Bailey Falter, I think, had the lowest ERA in baseball in the month of May. They're 25 and 24% rostered. We don't really like. It's a clear step down even from Edward Cabrera with those two, right?
Yeah, I would have to be under duress to bother with either Falter or Morton.
All right.
So if I had to choose, it would be Morton because at least he can get some strikeouts.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the other news and notes from Wednesday. But unfortunately, like we said, Pablo Lopez out 8 to 12 weeks with that shoulder strain. So that's such a bummer because he was actually having a good start to the season after being really frustrating the past couple of years. So we're just never going to get a non-frustrating Pablo Lopez season, I guess. All right, news and notes. Logan Gilbert coming back from that flexor tendon strain through 60 pitches in his second rehab outing on Wednesday, allowing 2 runs over 3 innings at AAA Tacoma. He will likely need, I would guess, at least one more rehab start, but probably only one more if it goes well before he's being able to be activated. JT Realmuto left Wednesday's game after being hit by a foul ball in the groin area. He left late, didn't see any updates. That's one of those injuries that you just kind of have no idea. Sometimes it just happens and guys are back tomorrow. Sometimes guys have to go on the IL. So hope he's okay. Carlos Correa was scratched Wednesday with back tightness. Brooks Lee took over for him. Correa had started 11 of 12 games since that concussion and had been hitting really well. So this is frustrating. Hopefully it's just a one-day thing. Mark Vientos' hamstring strain is a low grade 1, and he will be shut down for 10 to 14 days before moving himself back up and trying to get back in. Do you think there's any way he just doesn't have a full-time job waiting for him when he gets back?
I think there's a way. Yeah. I mean, Brett Beatty's been better, certainly, since returning from the minors. And I believe
really all season.
I believe he'd been playing more consistently than Vientos had. So
in the field,
10 to 14 days. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean he'll be returning after that, but it doesn't look like a lengthy absence for Vientos. So I don't know if Beatty will have enough time, especially since Ronnie Mauricio is probably going to steal some at bats during that time. But yeah, Vientos' playing time had already been trending down, so he didn't need this. I dropped him. I dropped him a pretty good amount in my third base rankings with this injury. I'd kind of been waiting for an excuse to do so.
Yeah. Sean Manaea will pitch for High A Brooklyn on Friday in his first rehab appearance, coming back from that oblique injury. He'll likely need, I would guess, 3 or 4 starts before he's promoted. Is he
got a lot of shares? I got a lot of shares.
He's about 60% rostered. Is he below Shane Bieber?
Yeah.
Below Edward Cabrera?
I don't think I mean, now that he's starting a rehab assignment with that knowledge, I think I'd rather have Manaea. Chris Bubich was my most drafted player. I've talked about that a few times. Sean Manaea may have been my second most drafted player.
That sounds right. He was your player you loved, right?
Yeah, going back 4 months now. It's true.
That was 4 months ago. Yeah. All right. Tommy Edman has missed the past 2 games due to an ankle injury. Michael Kopech faced hitters for the first time in a live batting practice session as he continues to work his way back from a shoulder injury. That's relevant just because Tanner Scott has been shaky and they've kind of declined to name him the official closer in recent days, but Kopech's still got a ways to go. Jordan Westberg will play Wednesday and Thursday at AAA Norfolk before determining the next steps, which will probably be a return to the majors as soon as this weekend from his hamstring injury. So that's a good sign. Kyle Tucker missed his second game in a row due to a jammed right ring finger, but he is still expected to avoid the IL. Kerry Carpenter was scratched from Wednesday's lineup with right hamstring tightness. Were you going to say something?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Jason Dominguez was out of the lineup yet again on Wednesday as he continues to deal with swelling in his left thumb. He was available off the bench and sounds like he will be back in the lineup Thursday or Friday. The Yankees will decide what the next step for Giancarlo Stanton is in the next 24 hours, which is a weird way to phrase it. He's recovering from issues in both elbows this offseason, but has been playing in simulated games at the team's complex, so a rehab stint seems like the logical next step for him. Tyler O'Neill will begin a rehab assignment at AAA this weekend, could be back next week from his shoulder injury. Jorge Soler was pulled from Wednesday's game due to groin tightness, but manager Ron Washington told reporters he hopes Soler will be fine for Friday's game against Seattle. Cutter Crawford was pulled from his rehab assignment due to right wrist inflammation. He's been working his way back from a knee injury that dates back to the end of last season. don't really have much expectation for Cutter Crawford at this point, right?
He would be behind every pitcher we talked about, probably including Charlie Morton and Bailey Falter.
That is damning. Max Muncy, the other Max Muncy, we've got maximum Max Muncy back in the majors because he was recalled from AAA. This is the guy in the the Athletics, the Sacramento Athletics. He hit just 176 in 21 games early in the season, but did have a 901 OPS at AAA. Alek Manoah, coming back from Tommy John surgery, could throw a live batting practice next week. Ben Lively had Tommy John surgery with a right flexor tendon repair and will be out 12 to 14 months. Xander Bogaerts left Wednesday's game with shoulder soreness, and Kyle Harrison, who was not very good on Wednesday, left with a bruised elbow after getting hit by a comebacker. 5 earned runs, 4 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 3 strikeouts, just remains 2 hittable. Kyle Harrison does. So hopefully the injury is not severe, but not sure it matters too much for fantasy. And we are going to take one more break, and then we'll be back to talk about the rest of what you need to know from Wednesday's action right after this.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to Fantasy Baseball Today. I am Chris Towers. I'm here with Scott White. We're going to talk about some waiver wire stuff, some guys to add, some guys to some hitters to add, some pitchers to add. But first, you got to drop someone. So I've got a list of 6 names. We're going to call this segment "Go Ahead and Drop Them?" ? And we'll start with Lucas Giolito, who is still somehow 47% rostered. And he got bombed again today by the Angels. His ERA is up to 6.42. He gave up 7 earned runs in 1 2/3 innings on 8 hits. Go ahead and drop Lucas Giolito everywhere.
So this is a guy who had 1 whiff. It wasn't Merrill Kelly. It was Lucas Giolito. 1 whiff on 43 pitches.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
You know, I feel like we're kind of getting jerked back and forth here with him because he'll have a start where there's some reasons for optimism, and then he'll follow it up with it just gets bombed like this.
I think we need more than reasons for optimism at this point, though. You know, like we need like it, not just like we need like
yeah. I mean, he doesn't need to be rostered. Like that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wary of
totally writing him off.
Well, yeah. What if he throws 6 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts next time out?
That's where I've been with like Sandy Alcantara all season. It's like I get it, and I don't really see anything there, but it's Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah,
it's just with Giolito. It's been longer since he was good. So
right. The main thing, in between that start was actually good. Those moments is that his velocity it has remained back to where it was since he was last good. So maybe there's something for him to put together here, but there are more interesting pitchers. Both of the Twins guys, Zebby Matthews and David Festa, are more interesting. And I
think Charlie Morton might be more interesting at this point.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I think most leagues, Giolito, he doesn't need to be rostered in 47%.
All right, Tony Gonsolin, still 61% rostered. This wasn't a terrible start. 2 earned runs in 5 innings. It started out pretty bad, and then he righted the ship. 3 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. The problem is he allowed 5 earned runs in his first 3 starts combined. He has a 6.75 ERA in 4 starts since then, 17 strikeouts, 14 walks, and he's still 61% rostered. It's fine to drop Tony Gonsolin, right? Would you rather have Tony Gonsolin or Edward Cabrera at this point?
It's not unthinkable to drop Gonsolin, but I do think I'd prefer him to Edward Cabrera, if only, and it's not only, but if only because of the team context. So the main issue I see here with Gonsolin is that he's just walking too many guys,
Mhm.
and that's uncharacteristic. Like during his best seasons, it was really good control. So the fact that Gonsolin has now issued 3 walks or more in 4 straight starts, it just seems like something he's going to get past because he has the history of it. And so I look at this start; he had 17 swinging strikes on 90 pitches. Like the pitches still look good, and he has the best supporting cast you could ask for. And so, while I think our initial enthusiasm for Gonsolin when he, those first couple starts were so good and he was must-add across the board, okay, we've cooled on that. I would still prefer to hold on to him if it's possible.
Okay. Jordan Romano. We can just drop him, right? Wasn't a save situation on Wednesday, but he lost the game for the Phillies against the Blue Jays. Gave up 1 run on 2 hits. He had a 2.53 ERA in May. Overall, looked like he was turning around, but 7.36 for the season and has given up 5 runs in his past 4.2 innings of work. The Phillies have still showed faith in him lately, but I think they've got to make a change, right?
I don't know. I mean, they've been so since Alvarado went down, and really before then, they've been pretty consistent about using Romano as their closer, and for a while there, it looked like he had figured things out. But yeah, 5 earned runs in his last 5 innings. It's that ERA is not coming down fast enough. Do they change to Matt Strahm? Until they show that they are, Romano has to remain. He's the Phillies closer right now, so he has to remain rostered in leagues where every closer is rostered. Does he need to be rostered over like Will Vest or Emiliano Pagan or Daniel Palencia?
Yeah, no.
The one I'd hedge on maybe is Pagan, who has also looked vulnerable recently, but I would definitely take Palencia and Vest over.
I think the thing that hurts Romano more than Pagan is just I don't know who the Reds would go to.
Yeah.
Whereas the Phillies have at least one other viable alternative. Orion Kirkring's been a little shaky as well. So I don't know if he's the answer.
I think it would just be Strahm.
Yeah, I think so. This one's easy, but he is 34% rostered, so we'll just get it out of the way. Kumar Rocker made his return to the rotation for the Rangers. 3 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. He has an 8.87 ERA for the season. He was throwing harder in this one, about 2 to 4 miles per hour on everything. His slider appears to have been reclassified as a cutter by Baseball Savant, which is weird because there was a stretch where it might have been called a curveball too. It's just a weird pitch.
Yeah.
And he got 16 whiffs on 66 pitches, but I think Kumar Rocker's going to end up in the bullpen before long. Like if they had the healthy arms, I think he'd be there already. And look, maybe he'd be an awesome closer right now. I could see that. Just like go out and air it out for 14 pitches. He could be the Rangers closer, but right now they're not doing that. He's too highly rostered at 34%.
Yeah,
right.
There's no reason to roster Rocker outside of like dynasty leagues, I would say.
Shane Baz, this wasn't a terrible start, relatively speaking. 3 earned runs, 5 innings, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. But it's not like it was super encouraging. Like it wasn't quite as bad as Max Meyer against the Rockies, but 3 earned runs and 5 innings against this Rangers lineup, it's not very promising. Given how bad Shane Baz has been, he doesn't need to be 100% roster, does he?
No. I dropped
him for Yuri
him.
Perez.
What was that?
Drop him for Yuri Perez.
Oh yeah, not even close.
Drop him for Zebby Matthews or David Festa.
That is a closer call. I actually have Baz just a few spots ahead of those guys.
Okay,
but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you dropped him. You say it wasn't super encouraging. It was through 4 innings. Yeah, I was like, wow,
Yeah, he was getting
Shane
some
Baz
whiffs.
is
Yeah.
back. But then it all kind of fell apart. He got a ton of whiffs on the fastball, but I don't know if there's any explanation for that. It's not like the induced vertical break was up or anything like that. So it's I think Shane Baz has more upside than both Zebby Matthews and David Festa, and I think he has less downside than both.
He
Zebby
hasn't been
Matthews
sent
and
down to
David
AAA
Festa.
yet.
It's just, do I have right now, this very moment, do I have more trust in Zebby Matthews and David Festa than Shane Baz? And that's probably pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
If not Baz being behind them. So you weigh all those factors, Baz comes out slightly ahead for me, but again, it wouldn't break my heart if you dropped them.
All right. And then last one. Is it time to just drop Christian Walker? I've been hesitant. He's remained in my top 12 first baseman. His track record is so strong. He's just not getting any better. He's hitting 208 with a 630 OPS for the season. He went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts today. He is 3 for 19 with 10 strikeouts in his past 6 games. It's just not getting better is my biggest concern.
Yeah, and he's old, and there have been a number of emergent first basemen. So if it's a non-corner infield league, it's like a standard head-to-head lineup league, it's not unthinkable. I actually finally did move Walker down my rankings. I dropped him to 16th at first base. So that put him behind Rhys Hoskins and Jonathan Aranda.
Torkelson.
Yeah, Torkelson's up to 10th for me now.
Just Ben Rice?
Ben Rice is behind Walker because of playing time issues.
Soderstrom?
I do have Walker. Soderstrom's ahead of Walker. I do have Walker just a little ahead of Nick Kurtz and Jack Caglione.
Yeah. Torkelson has been losing a little bit of playing time lately, but I don't know if that's like a pattern or if it's just happens to be a couple days off in the past week, I think. But
Torkelson?
Yeah. But I don't think it's been like a long-term thing. He's slowed down, just like Soderstrom has a little bit. Not as much as Soderstrom.
So I brought up Walker being ahead of Caglione. I think, how am I going to explain this? I think Caglione needs to be more rostered than Walker. Like if surely Caglione's rostered virtually everywhere at this point, right? So it's not even.
I haven't checked since
he's still available. 89% rostered.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a moot point, I guess. But if you have the choice, I got to free up a roster spot, and I have Walker and also Caglione. You gotta see it through with Caglione. I feel like more than you do with Walker at this point.
All right, let's talk about some players to add. And there weren't a ton of hitters or frankly pitchers on Wednesday that I felt super confident in. But I will point out, Cesar Rafaela hit the cheapest home run of the season today. I believe it was a game-winning 308-foot home run for the Red Sox. 308 feet, that's a very short home run. That will literally only happen in Fenway Park. He hit it to the one spot in the one ballpark. But he does have 4 homers over his past 7 games. And Cesar Rafaela
3 straight, right? 3 straight with a homer?
That... You sound confident, so I'll say yeah.
It is, yes. 3 straight with a homer.
347 expected WOBA is much better than it was last season. His plate discipline's been a little better. Is he a must roster player?
So I'm going to turn this into a Pete Crow Armstrong discussion because during the height of Pete Crow Armstrong skepticism, one of the things I kept saying was that the profile looks very similar to Cesar Rafaela. So why would you not show the same faith in Rafaela if you have it in Crow Armstrong? And if you look at the expected stats, that's still true in a good way. Like Pete Crow Armstrong's expected stats look good now, and so do Cesar Rafaela's. 274 expected batting average, 491 expected slug. Those are really good expected numbers. Here's the difference. Pete Crow Armstrong's pull air rate has
Yeah.
become one of the best in baseball. It didn't start out that way this year, but it has become that. Rafael is one of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how much those expected stats account for it. I feel like
Not very. I don't think they account for direction left or
And-
right.
and it seems like that is a key ingredient that's
Mhm.
missing, because pull air rate is like the stat du jour for me. And that explains why Rafaela, I think, has fallen so short of those expected stats. So I would say he's far from must roster, especially given the context of that third home run
Mhm.
in as many
Yeah.
days.
All right. Some waiver wire pitchers. And again, none of these guys are particularly interesting. So I think we should just move past them pretty quickly. But Mike Burrows was pretty good for the first time for the Pirates. 5 1/3, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts. He's got a decent minor league track record. He's got a little bit of prospect pedigree. So I think it's a name to keep an eye on. We talked about Sorry Gibson Long. Cade Povich has been better lately, but still not very good. Still gives up too much hard contact. Emerson Hancock, he's got a 2.91 ERA over his past 4 starts, but 16 strikeouts in 21 2/3 innings. I don't think there's much beyond deep leagues in any of these guys, right?
Agreed.
All right, let's move on to our segment called Just Wondering, ... Just wondering. We'll start off with an easy one. How embarrassed should I be as a Marlins fan that they just got swept by the Rockies?
How embarrassed should I be as a Braves fan that they just got one hit by Merrill Kelly?
The Rockies.
You should be embarrassed.
Bad. All right. Just wondering. Nick Pivetta. He gave up 5 earned runs in 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 hit or 1 walk, 6 hits on Wednesday against the Giants. He's got a 4.63 ERA since the start of May, but home runs really haven't been the issue. I don't think he's allowed a multi-homer game. He's had 3 quality starts in 3 straight quality starts, and it would have been 4, except they brought him out for the 7th inning. He gave up 2 more runs today. It's just wondering, any concerns here for Nick Pivetta?
I think that's kind of the 4.63 ERA since the start of May is kind of a fun with sample size thing.
Oh, yeah.
He had one really bad start, and then this one was a kind of bad start, and then the other starts were all great. The other 4 starts were all great.
Hey, look,
Great.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
I'm just asking questions.
his previous 3 prior to this were really, really good. So I think you can stop asking questions. I think Nick Pivetta is good.
All right. The Reds placed Hunter Green on the IL on Wednesday with a groin strain. It's the second time he's dealt with this injury this season. The previous one was pretty much a base minimum stay on the IL. I would expect they will be more cautious this time around. Just wondering, are we sure he's still a top 20 pitcher when he comes back?
No.
He was a top 12 pitcher at one point for you, right?
Yeah, and I've kept him there, though I may need to revisit it now that he's back on the IL. In fact, I probably should revisit it now that he's back on the IL. Are we sure he's top 20? I mean, look, we're not sure of anything. We're not sure. We were giving Hunter Green. He kind of forced his way in there, despite our lingering concerns about him. We just couldn't ignore how dominant he was being. So we found ways to get him that high, pitchers that we could justify moving him ahead of.
But then he comes back from that groin injury the first time. Looks pretty shaky.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look as dominant. Shaky might be a little strong.
The control was pretty bad, right?
I'd have to look at the game log. That wasn't my recollection of it, just that he wasn't as overpowering, but
No, I guess no. You're right.
Yeah.
I was overstating the case there.
Yeah. So I still have so 20th, top 20. That's kind of that group of 4 I was talking about at the start of the show: Carlos Rodon, Chris Bubich, Robbie Ray, and now Mackenzie Gore. That they're all around 20th there. Would I take Hunter Green over all of them? Yeah. So
Well, right now or when he gets back?
I'm assuming it won't be that long of an absence for
Mhm.
him. So right now,
Okay.
unless you disagree. I mean, even if you do disagree, we might just disagree.
I just have no idea how long he's going to be out. And
I don't
that's enough of
either.
a question mark that I'm not sure he's so much better than those guys that I'll take him when he's currently hurt, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but he was when he was healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew Abbott versus the Brewers finally had a bad start after I started to buy in. Because of course. 5 earned runs over 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, still 13 whiffs on 100 pitches, still 85.6 mile per hour average exit velocity, still only 5 hard hit balls, still has a 2.18 ERA with like a 3 xERA.
Mhm.
Just wondering, what do we make of this guy at this point? What's Andrew Abbott's deal?
He's 46th in my starting pitcher rankings.
Yeah. He's 49th for me.
So that's, we're not buying into him like he actually deserved a 151 ERA or now 218 ERA, but I think there's something here. I think the extreme fly ball rate,
Well, and extreme fly balls, which are there's 2 different things there. He gives up a lot of fly balls. He has an extreme fly ball rate. And the fly balls he gives up are hit really high.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
High-
not necessarily pop-ups, but it's harmless fly balls for the most part.
Yeah. So weak quality, contact quality.
Mhm.
In fact, I would like to look up.
Well, so since the start of last season, out of 108 pitchers who have thrown at least 2,500 pitches, he has the 14th best expected WOBA on contact.
Okay.
And he has sustained that from last season while getting the strikeout rate like 9 points higher than it was last year. That's what I'm buying into here.
Yeah. So it's the number I was looking up, 79th percentile for average exit velocity. And then the very high fly ball rate. Like if he pitched in a big park, it'd be much easier to buy. That fly ball rate, even with the weak contact, it's scary at the most homer friendly ballpark in baseball. And
it's a slim margin for error.
So between that and the fact that I think this was now his 4th start of 6+ innings, he hasn't been working deep into games. But this is the 4th start of that length. So those are the main things holding me back on Abbott, not buying into him as more than a top 50 pitcher. But look, top 50 is
pretty good.
Top 50 puts him at the same, like he's 1 spot ahead of Drew Rasmussen for me. And I think there are similar concerns for him, even though the ERA is great.
Okay, let's be the only national baseball podcast to spend like 7 consecutive minutes or whatever it is talking about the Cincinnati Reds this season. Matt McClain has been batting in the bottom 3 of the lineup almost exclusively for the past 4 weeks. He has an OPS below 500 in that span. Just wondering, is there any reason to keep him around at this point?
Yeah, well, it depends on the league.
Yeah.
I think in middle infield leagues, yes. I think in like a head-to-head points league, no. You could probably do better. I can come up with 12 second basemen that I'd rather have than him at this point, and he's doing you more harm than good keeping him in your lineup. Is that true? I thought I lowered him. I'm not sure my rankings are right here because I feel like I lowered him. I'll have to check that again. I think he's better than this, is the bottom line. I don't think he's as good as he was as a rookie.
No.
And we've talked about that a lot since then. But I was not expecting him to hit 175 either. And I understand if he's killing you, having to swap him out for somebody else, but I think in the long run, he's going to be top 12 at the position in the long run, or at least from today forward.
I still have him ranked that way, but man, we got to see something at some point because we haven't seen anything in, I don't know, like 21 months because he got hurt in like August of 2023. And that's the last time we saw him before this season. All right. Hunter Goodman continues to stand out, finished this series in Miami with 6 extra base hits, including 3 homers in 3 games. Just wondering, is he just a top 12 catcher in all formats?
He is for me. Yeah, I've dropped JT Real Muto behind him now. And I think I still have Agustin Ramirez ahead of Goodman. But
I have as well. Those two are the ones that I'm looking at askance, if that's the right usage of that word, with Hunter Goodman. Yeah,
I could see moving Goodman ahead of him. I think Ramirez is more talented. But
he's slumping.
Yeah, I mean, Goodman has been productive all year, and he plays a ton, and
he's only sat like 1 or 2 games.
I mean, Ramirez is playing a ton too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main reason I kept him ahead. But they're both top 12, top 11 technically for me.
All right. Let's see. The Giants DFA'd Lamont Wade on Wednesday, which doesn't really matter for fantasy. Just wondering, is Bryce Eldridge the next big name to stash? He was called up to AAA yesterday.
The year for the first base prospect, apparently. You know, I know there are some people who have a ton of enthusiasm for him, and I'm not saying he's not a talented guy, but the numbers don't slap you in the face the way they do for the other two who've got called
Nick
up.
Kurtz
and Jack Caglione. And he's still so
a little more
young.
swing and miss, a little less in-game power. Yeah.
He's just 20. I mean, both of those guys were making their pro debut, not their major league debut, their pro debut. They were older than Eldridge is right now. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Eldridge debuted this year. I don't think it's on the cusp of happening. So I have a prospects report coming out. May already be out by the time you're listening to this. I don't have Bryce Eldridge in my 5 on the verge.
All right. And then Matthew Boyd, good again. 7 1/3, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. Just what do we make of this? That's the question. I don't really get it. I don't understand. Maybe you have a better sense for what Matthew Boyd is doing and how he's doing it.
Well, it's looked a lot better since the start of May, because early on, it really didn't make sense to me. And people were pressuring me to buy in, and I wasn't doing it. But basically, all my concerns have been answered since then. His last 6 starts. So again, that goes back to the start of May. Boyd has issued 3 total walks in those 6 starts, 10.3 K per 9. It wasn't missing bats early. 10.3 K per 9, a near 12% swinging strike rate, was pretty good. Near 70% strike percentage. So control has been great. He's been missing more bats. He's been working deeper into games, all but one of those 6 starts, 6+ innings. That's basically every concern I had about him in April. So he's been around a long time and hasn't been particularly useful in fantasy for most of it, but he's useful right now in every way you could want. So
top 60 starting pitcher.
Where did I move Boyd when I last updated? I don't have him that high, but I could. He's not far outside of that, and rearranging enough of these names, I could see getting him there.
Okay. All right. We've got some pitching leftovers. Chris Sale, pretty typical Chris Sale stuff. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks. That's high, but who cares? It's still like a 111 whip because he only allowed 3 hits. He's awesome. Jose Barrios, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned run over 6 innings pitched versus Philadelphia. That's a good start. Luis Ortiz, 5 2/3 shutout, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks, 3 hits against the Yankees. That's also a good start. And Clark Schmidt looked like it was going to be a really bad start. He gave up 3 earned runs in the first inning, but he settled in, almost got the quality start, fell 1 out short, 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Anything to add on these 4 pitchers?
Barrios is doing his thing again. He now has 6 quality starts in his last 7, and is probably just going to end up having a typical Jose Barrios stat line when all's said and done.
Yep. 3.60-ish ERA, kind of not great whip. Yeah, that's who he is.
Luis Ortiz has become a really good bat misser, and I want to buy into him more. I'm not sure he's good at anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And efficiency issues exist with all the walks. And so, he remains more of a streamer type for me. And I would say the same is true for Clark Schmidt.
All right, let's do the call to the bullpen. Justin Martinez blew a multi-inning save chance on Wednesday, allowed 1 run on 4 walks, also recorded 4 of his 5 outs via the strikeout, and got the win. How are we feeling about Justin Martinez right now?
I was feeling better before today.
Yeah. 4 walks and 2 innings will do that.
But the main thing is that we haven't seen the velocity slip like it did before he went on the IL. It's been fine ever since then. And there are really no impediments to him closing. So I think, look, I like him more than Jordan Romano.
Yeah. All right. The Camilo Doval had pitched 2 of the previous 3 games, so probably wasn't available for the Giants. They tried to get Ryan Walker a save, and he allowed 2 hits while recording 1 out before being pulled for Randy Rodriguez, who got the final 2 outs. Doval's been a teeny tiny bit shaky lately, and the strikeouts haven't been there. Walker, obviously, I think is kind of out of the picture. Do we need to be picking up Randy Rodriguez as a speculative ad just in case? He has been absurdly dominant. Like sub 1 whip, sub 1 ERA, like 38 strikeouts, 24 innings. He's been one of arguably the best reliever in baseball so far this season, Randy Rodriguez for the Giants.
He sure has.
I'm not quite sure where it came from.
This is news to me because I was thinking Tyler Rogers would be next in line, but no, probably would be Rodriguez. I don't think they're going to pull the plug on Camilo Doval anytime soon, but maybe in an NL-only league, a preemptive stash of Randy Rodriguez. I mean, he might help in ratios, if nothing else.
All right. Felix Bautista allowed a hit and a walk, but got the save. Still seems just a little bit shaky. Detroit, Will Vest worked the 7th and 8th on Wednesday, and Tommy Kahnle got the 9th. I don't know.
Look, Will Vest's previous 4 appearances were all for a save.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's sort of like what was happening with Yohan Duran and Griffin Jackson, the Twins bullpen last year. Duran was the closer, but, occasionally he didn't close. And I think that's what's going on with Vest and Kahnle.
All right. Jeff Hoffman allowed 1 hit, but needed just 7 pitches for the save for the Blue Jays. David Bednar struck out 2 for the save. Dennis Santana hasn't had a save since May 21st. Is this just David Bednar's job now again?
It would seem so, but the irony is I think Dennis Santana's better now. Like, he's actually good, I think. The strikeouts weren't there early on, but the swinging strike rate was always good. And the strikeouts have really begun to pick up lately. So I don't know if Bednar can hold on to it after saying for most of this year, I don't know that Santana can hold on to it.
All right. And then Tyler Kinley got the save for the Rockies. I think Zach Adnos got the previous save, but we don't care. It's not worth trying to figure out.
Not worth it.
Maybe if they got to play the Marlins 50 or 60 more times, they might have enough saves to matter.
I am done caring about the Rockies, White Sox, and I think even the Marlins bullpens because Clayton McCullough just it's Heath Cummings level of trollery.
I love that. All right. To stream or not to stream, we got David Festa likely to start against the Athletics, but that's in Sacramento. Slade Ciccone at New York, the Yankees. Miles Michaelis versus the Royals. Jack Leiter at Tampa Bay. Not very many good options on Thursday, huh?
Nope. That's what Frank and I were saying yesterday.
I think Leiter against the Rays maybe is probably the best. Maybe Festa, but I just don't like either park.
Yeah, I would prefer not to, but those are the best.
All right, Friday, we've got Edward Cabrera at the Rays. Patrick Corbin revenge game against the Washington Nationals. He's got a sub-4 ERA somehow. Bailey Falter versus the Phillies. Ben Brown at Detroit. Davis Martin versus the Royals. Chad Patrick versus the Padres. And Dean Kramer against the Athletics. Again, not a lot of great options on Friday. Who's your favorite?
Yeah, I think we got to say Cabrera based on everything we've been saying about him all show. And even though it's not a great venue, I believe his ground ball rate's not as good as it used to be. So that's not going to help Cabrera. But yeah, I still think he would be the first choice Friday. And I'd put Chad Patrick second.
All right. That is going to do it for Fantasy Baseball today. For Scott, I am Chris. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.